The very night after this Greenworks 80-volt power station arrived, there was a blackout. But I was asleep and the power was back on before I woke up. However, I've experienced less fortunate blackouts. So that's why I got this thing. Since I have lots of Greenworks 80-volt tools, like this zero-turn lawnmower, which included 12 batteries, wouldn't it be nice to use that power in an emergency? Previously, I tried the Greenworks 80-volt 300-watt power inverter. But that wasn't such a great experience. While I had some fun outdoors, and I made this funny picture of me on the moon, I couldn't even get an electric blanket to work. So will this 4-slot power station do a better job? Well, it certainly feels like it should. It's heavy. It's around 30 pounds without the batteries, and the batteries were not included. So let's get some batteries. Should I take one from the lawnmower? Nah, let's go skateboarding instead. With 4 of these 4 amp-hour batteries, the power station was over 50 pounds. Even with just 2, this thing was hard to move. Even more difficult was trying to see the screen. In bright sunlight, I couldn't read it. Even after moving it indoors, there was bright light from outside. So I closed the drapes. There it is. 2,000 watts of power. Ready to go. That does have a bit of flicker, so here's a better picture of the screen. I'm surprised they didn't use a screen that was more like the original Game Boy. Wouldn't that have been easier to see outside? And with the light, it could work indoors too. That's disappointing, but I got this primarily for power outages. Anyway, here's the first test. It's a toaster. I'm not starting small. It plugs in like a normal household outlet. Add some bread. And here we go. And I'm dead. But seriously, I have to admit, I was a bit nervous with this first experiment. With such high power, I wasn't sure of the danger. But here, now I'm just feeling disappointment. Why isn't it working? Oh well, I didn't read the instructions. There's a power button, and then there's another button for the row of outlets. Let's go. Wow, look at that. It's over 800 watts. With just 2 batteries. Nice. The toaster is glowing orange. And do you hear that? Nothing. The fan didn't even kick on yet. This is wild. This is inside my house. Compared to a gas generator, the Greenworks is way more stealthy. Let's put some more batteries inside. The toast is done. That is a mighty fine looking piece of toast. That doesn't look good though. There's an error. Looks like there was something wrong with battery number 3. I just pulled it out and put it back in. Problem solved. I'll have to do some more testing with hot swapping of batteries. For now, I'm going to enjoy my magnificent feast. I suppose if this was a real emergency, I could just eat the bread untoasted. So my plan for this device is not for surviving in absolute brutal conditions. It's about bringing back some convenience when the power is out briefly. Or maybe camping and tailgating. But if it was a more dire situation, I'd probably want to boil water. That's this next test. The electric water kettle test. What if I wanted to heat up this mountain house adventure meal? Some freeze-dried lasagna with meat sauce. Sounds tasty. So, can I boil water with this Greenworks power station? Let's flip the switch and find out. Wow, it's over 1400 watts. That's more power than I thought it would use. Now you can hear things getting a little noisy. The fan kicked on, but the volume is not much different than the water bubbling. Let's turn on the toaster and see what happens. Ooh, it jumped over 2000. But since that's too high for the power station, it drops back down to the limit. Since there's not enough power to run both devices properly, I'm just going to turn off the toaster. But that's an example of what's written on the side of the Greenworks power station. Peak power 4000 watts. So with the approximately 800 watts of the toaster and the 1400 watts of the water kettle, normal operation was exceeded. The power station only briefly delivered peak power. Anyway, after about 5 minutes, the water boiled. Look at that steam. I could live like a king during the next blackout. Let's go further. What about a space heater? During the last bad blackout, I was going through many of my prepping gadgets. The power was out for almost a day. Heading into the night, it started getting cold. Fortunately, the power was restored soon after. But what if not? Now, with the Greenworks power station, could I retreat to the bedroom and heat up a small space? Well, maybe? At the min setting on the space heater, it's using about 750 watts. On the medium setting, it's using about 850 watts. You can see that the time remaining dropped dramatically. It looks like less than 90 minutes at this level of power consumption. And at max setting, it's almost 1600 watts. The power station fan is really going. So this might not be a great idea. But I normally don't run this heater at max power. And once a nice temperature is reached, the thermostat turns off the heater. Maybe with additional batteries and conserving power, I can turn a horrible night into just a bad night. I consider this test successful though. It's enough power to run a space heater. That's gotta create some more options. So, let's say I survived the night. The power is back on, and now I need to recharge the batteries. How does that work? Well, I just plugged it into the wall, and it just works. It's a little noisy with the fan going, but it's very similar to the regular Greenworks chargers. The whole setup is about the size of a litter box. Here you can see it's drawing over 1000 watts to charge the batteries. The number is dropping though. It stayed like this for an exceptionally long time. It seems like the time remaining number is not quite accurate. My iPhone ran out of storage space before that last minute was up. But in general, it was nice to have that countdown. Now think about that. The standard Greenworks chargers don't have a countdown display, and those chargers aren't cheap. Two of these 2-port chargers could cost $250. At $600, this power station is way more expensive. Yet it's a very useful tool. So if you find yourself with a lot of Greenworks tools with a lot of 80-volt batteries, but you're lacking enough chargers, perhaps this power station is something to consider. Eventually it stopped charging. That means we can move on to another test. Could I use the Greenworks power station to run my computer setup? So I plugged in the power strip to find out. With just my Raspberry Pi connected and with the other devices off, it's at 20 watts. This is fun. I've been wanting to get a watt meter. Kind of an expensive way to get one though. Anyway, with the Mac turned on, it says 60 watts? Are you kidding me? Even with my flashy microphone lit up, it's less than an old light bulb. Wow. I'm not sure if that's right, but if it is, that's quite impressive. Let me just check some things. What if I raise the desk? What? It uses more power to raise my desk than to run many of the things on it. Wow, that's so funny. The Mac is at idle though. Let's give it a challenge. What about video processing? Here's a handbrake test. That looks like it's adding about 30 watts, which is consistent with what Apple says on their website. Wow again, 4 watts at idle, 65 watts max. That's even better than my last Mac Mini. So, power consumption is something to consider. More efficient devices will run longer on the Greenworks power station. Speaking of efficiency, let's go back to the electric blanket test. Instead of heating up a whole room, what if I just want to focus that heat on me? Well, this worked so much better. Last time, using the 300-watt Greenworks power inverter, the electric blanket was not working. Even worse, I think it was cooking itself. But since this new Greenworks power station is pure sine wave, and it has lots of power, I'm not seeing any problems. I'm running my computer stuff and an electric blanket. Even with an additional 110 watts for the blanket, this setup could last for hours. Although I soon discovered a problem. Could I use the Greenworks as an uninterruptible power supply? A UPS. Well, take a look at my surprise when I plugged the power station into the wall. My computer stuff turned off. I don't know why it did that. Then I tried the reverse. I turned everything back on and then removed the plug. That was to simulate a blackout. It turned off again. So, I don't like that. Although, considering it can get a little noisy, I wasn't planning to use the Greenworks power station as a UPS anyway. The Greenworks power station didn't include a solar panel, so I don't know how that would work. Yet that's another problem. The manual says the maximum input of solar energy is 1200 watts. Yet on the Greenworks power station itself, it says solar input 400 watts max. So which number is correct? I don't know. But at least I could retest the hot swapping of batteries. With my computer set up at idle, I started disconnecting batteries. There goes battery number 2. It shows an error briefly, but then realizes the battery was removed. Let's pull another. It sees that battery number 4 is missing. But my computer is still running. Let's go again. Battery number 1 was removed. And my computer is still running. That's amazing. Obviously, if I pull the last battery, it's game over. So let's put them back. Battery number 4 is back online. There's battery number 2. And battery number 1. This part seemed to work nice. Anyway, that's the story. Overall, I like it. That's because I have lots of Greenworks batteries. It works because I'm using those tools. Yet, I'm glad I picked this instead of something like a Jackery because I like how easily I can change the batteries. In the future, I might switch to better Greenworks batteries. That would make this power station even more useful.